But yeah, you did leave Los Angeles. You actually work out of a studio at home in Oregon now.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And it's magnificent. I love it up here. It's, aside from being very beautiful and aside from being closer to my youngest daughter and her two grandkids, there's a great music scene up here. It's a great, very creative place. They really pride themselves on just, embracing the arts, and it's a nice community. It's very different from Los Angeles. I'm very happy. I've been very productive up here.
Now, Beautiful Life is the solo project you are reworking on, but recently with the Motels, you put out a couple of albums. This and Clean, Modern, and Reasonable, both from the year 2007. They're significantly different from some classic Motels, as we'll put it, but obviously things evolve. You change as a songwriter. Talk about the similarities and the differences between classic Motels and current Motels in these two albums.
It's like I said, I'm all over the place now in terms of who I work with, and I'm working with a lot of different musicians, and people can be lumped under the Motel umbrella very, very easily. It's a big umbrella. The Clean, Modern, and Reasonable album was actually an album that was put together for an Australian label, Liberation Blue, and it was to coincide kind of with a tour that I was doing down there in 2007 it was sort of like an 80s review of the old Countdown show. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but if you're in Australia, you know what I'm talking about. So I was down there doing that, and then they had me do this record as well, which was lots of fun. I did that here in about 10 days, I think, and did that mostly with my engineer, Matt Morgan, who is now currently one of the Motels as well, because he plays drums in the band. And then Nick Johns from the LA band was helping out on that, I think, and it was like a little cast of different people from Portland, because that was recorded up here. This album, on the other hand, was pretty much all the band from my band in Los Angeles that I've been working with for the last 5 years, and that album not only became more sort of what I envision hearing, but it also became more collaborative effort with those guys who, after playing with them for 5 years, we truly are a wonderful band. And it's kind of sad because I'm up here now and they're down there, and it's kind of difficult to work together as much as we used to. But so those two albums sound drastically, I think, different from each other. This album was produced by myself and engineered by John Siebels. Some of it was actually recorded up here at the house, and then the rest of it was recorded down there.
You've done something like that before.
Oh, yes, that's true. You're very smart, aren't you?
Sly Stone, if I'm correct.
You're correct, and I know who you're talking about. The one and only, huh?
Sly Stone and Martha Davis.
Stone.
But you were never in the studio at the same time.
I know. I wanted to be with... he was a huge... I loved that guy. He was a huge influence on my early days and stuff. And he's a Bay Area boy but it was the record company just forbid it. They said, no, you don't want to meet him. And I said, oh, yes, I do. And they go, he's a little, because he was kind of crazy at that time, as we all were, And I'm like, I can take it. I don't care. And they just said, no, it's better you don't. So I never got to meet him. But I think the track still is a great track.
Chris Cordani here. This is Revenge of the 80s Radio. I'm talking with Martha Davis, lead singer of the Motels. Martha, it seems like you're always working on something new, so tell me a bit about some of the new and upcoming projects you're working on.
As I have been trying to do for probably 8 years now. I wrote a kids album back, I think it was about 8 years ago. A lot because of my grandkids, who were little. Maybe it was longer than 8 years. Maybe it was like 10 years ago. I don't know. Partly because of them, and partly because I just got on this kick one day and started writing kids songs and just loved it. I had, it was also in a retaliation to Barney and that kind of ilk. I remember loving kids songs when I was little, and that they were interesting and fascinating and sometimes scary, and they were just really cool. And I wanted to write a new bunch of songs that were clever and that were not talking down to kids. I thought that the level of sort of stupidity in a lot of the kids' stuff was just, it horrified me because kids aren't stupid. I mean, I know if at 5 I was listening to The Rite of Spring, and I loved it, that kids could listen to something more than the Barney song. So I set off on this mission to right the wrongs of kids' music, and I made this album that was all about different animals. And there was like a lead character who was a little black and white hamster who rolled around in a ball, which we've seen now in the movies. I also had a song on there called The March of the Penguins, which preceded the movie by a long time and basically told the same story. And I made this record, and David, who was managing me, took it to the record companies, and they said, well, I think this is just too intellectual for children. So they passed on it. And this was a bunch, this was years ago. So now it appears that a whole bunch of different artists are doing kids' records, and they're not dumb records. They're very clever. Like there's, They Might Be Giants, No, if you've ever heard that one, is great.
How about Stan Ridgway and Pietra Weckstrom, Silly Songs for Kids? Yes.
Exactly. But this is something like I did so long ago, and so now I'm like, well, I'm going to do it again. And I tried to get my engineer to get excited about it, and he's like, well, so many people have tried to finish this album, because it's true, it's sort of gone through different hands, and I just always knew I should do it, So I basically went on a kick and wrote almost a whole new kids record. So that's going to be finished soon, and that's going to come out if it kills me. I mean, I've been sitting on this thing way too long. They're really funny songs. They're always about animals so far. I wanted to start out just like doing kids and animals, because animals are so much fun, because you can do so many different flavors for each animal. Like, a rabbit doesn't sound anything like a black mamba,
No.
So it's fun because it takes you all across the musical landscape as well. But so there's that. There is I've actually just the other day we re-recorded Total Control, and I had Marty Gerard, who was the original sax player in the old Motels, come down from Seattle and blow some sax on it. And we're talking about actually doing a little jazz thing together. He's been playing a lot of jazz, and I've always written, in these. Well, there was Change My Mind on the All for One record, but I've always, a part of me writes these seeming that they're like old jazz standards that I love that genre. So I would like to do an album of that, and then sort of working on that. And then I'm managing myself now as well with my partner in crime, Miss Margaret McNabb. And so my plate is really full. Plus I'm managing this big old house on a big piece of property and a studio, and bands are coming through here. And it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy time.
What do you want people to remember most about Martha Davis, the singer, songwriter, and musician?
I want them to always be able to take those journeys through my music. I mean, if I've done my job correctly, when you listen to those songs that, if they meant something to you, they're going to transport you. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I want, is just to have music do what I know other music has done to me, and that is allowed me to be outside myself. And that's one of the things that music, I think it's one of its greatest gifts. It's transportation, it's mode of transportation to another place, another time. There's nothing that will actually steal a memory as much as a song will. It'll take you back in time. It's I don't know. I just want to leave behind some songs that mean something, and if I do that, I'm very, very, very happy.
Martha Davis, thank you again for coming on to Revenge of the 80s with me.
My pleasure. It's been so much fun.